All right, we are back with the College Lifter Show. I am your host, Will Everell, along with my co-host, Ryan Capers.
What's up?
The man with the hat. Seriously, too many hats. Anyways, this week we're going to be talking about how to train for your sport. So we both are involved in CrossFit. The whole thing is general physical preparedness.
Mm-hmm.
But a lot of people are starting to kind of move towards using CrossFit, weightlifting, and powerlifting. Weightlifting, powerlifting for a while, but more recently CrossFit for sport-specific application.
Yeah.
So we're going to just rapid fire off a couple of sports. The first one is baseball. How do you train for baseball?
Baseball is one of those things. I look at baseball as I think we have to classify each sport first before you can kind of say how do you train for that sport. So I think baseball is a skill sport, meaning that you have to be really good at just a few things and you can be a good baseball player. So if you can hit really well, if you can throw really well, if you can run really well, and catch really well, that's a big part too. You have to be. That's going to make you a good baseball player. Now, that's a big contrast between going out there and working on those skills and getting stronger. So you have to train those skills. Mm-hmm. You definitely have to train those skills. You have to throw a lot. You have to catch a lot. Also, you have to be strong enough to be able to perform those at an optimal level. Right. So if we're going to get stronger in those motions, if we're going to get stronger in your shoulder rotation, if we're going to get stronger in your hip rotation, in your arms, in your legs, to be able to run, to be able to swing the bat, all those different areas are going to make you better at that skill. And just like we've talked about before, there is a point of diminishing return to where if I'm swinging, how much does a baseball bat weigh? Like 2 pounds?
Something like that, I guess.
If I'm going to swing a baseball bat that weighs 2 pounds, I probably don't need to squat 800 pounds. That's probably not going to help me any more than like a 500-pound squat.
But the squat would help you in the running speed.
Right. But once again, if I weigh 200 pounds, am I going to run faster squatting 800 versus 500?
Right, so where do you think that comes in for running? So if we're looking at any really running sport, but something like baseball where it's short distances, where is that point of this is enough poundage on the squat or the deadlift?
If you go back to our speed episode where we talked about athlete training for speed, because it is a short distance, 200 feet or something for
like
baseline.
That,
You're a lot of that's acceleration phase, and a lot of acceleration phase is how hard you can push into the ground versus that top end speed, which is a lot more that stretch reflex of the hip.
So give me a number. I'm a baseball player. How much I'm 6'3", baseball player. How much do I need to squat?
If you're in high school, I'm going to say a minimum of 300 pounds to have optimum running speed. College, 450 pro, probably about 500.
Okay. Now, what about tensile strength within swinging the bat? As far as tensile strength in your trunk, stability up in here.
It's going to take a lot of I hate this word, but core strength, meaning front, back, and side. Everything from the bottom of your chin to the top of your legs. That all together has to be strong. So we can train that a lot of ways, but as we know, the best way to train that trunk to make it stronger is asking it to stabilize under load. So things like squats, deadlifts, overhead pressing, which controversial in baseball, but there's a give and take there. I think if as long as you're asking it to stabilize under heavy loads, then you're going to be putting yourself in a good position.
All right, last thing about baseball: dumbbells or barbells? Do you want independent arms or do you want latched onto a barbell?
Do both. You're going to be able to apply more force with one. You're going to be able to overload the limbs more. You're going to be able to overload your entire body more with both. And then with one, you're asking those to stabilize, which I think is more important in baseball than most sports, to be able to stabilize with a single limb, because you are more single limb dominant in baseball than any sport.
All right. Now, football, something we both played. Classical stuff is old school powerlifting, squat, bench, deadlift, a lot of pull-ups.
Yeah, there's a lot of people attack football differently. I have the idea of football is powerlifting, right? And then powerlifting, touch of weightlifting that you do a lot of sprinting work with. Mm-hmm. So we're working on that overall strength, and we're working on how fast can you accelerate and change direction. That's a lot of football to me. And then because there is so much, because football, going back to how we're classifying everything, because football is an impact sport, right? We have to build that muscle mass. We have to build that skeletal stability to be able to handle taking those big hits, constantly delivering a pounding for, whether it be, whether you're in high school playing a 2-hour game or in college or pros playing a 3-hour game, you have to be able to constantly deliver blows and take blows.
Okay, so as far as hypertrophy versus strength, which in the off season or at what times are you going to focus more on each of those?
So I'm not big on the linear periodization model, meaning that we're going to focus like speed here, strength here, size here.
You don't like the block stuff? Or
No,
anything?
I don't think so. I'm more of I believe more on the lines of like Joe DeFranco does, where it's more we're going to blend everything all year long. So we're going to say and I think you can lean a little bit certain ways. Like I'm not going to. In the middle of the summer, I'm not going to try and condition my guys. Right. We're going to just focus a little bit more on strength. Now, if I have my guys and we're in like say the last 4 weeks before they're going into fall camp, we're going to do a little bit more conditioning. Right. So there are things that you're going to sprinkle in there, but at no time am I going to say, yeah, we're not going to do any strength work right now.
Okay.
Right. We're always going to be doing a little bit of everything. I think it's important to keep that in the whole year.
And how do you divide this up between different positions? You got linemen, you got fast guys. What do you?
With my groups of guys, because I am training a group at a time. I'm not, I don't have the luxury of training like one NFL guy where I can focus just on him and make him a perfect being. I have to kind of generalize my guys. I will make changes here and there. Like say different starting positions if we're doing any kind of sprinting or like styles of squatting, things like that. I don't change it too much, but in a perfect world, I'm going to have everybody's going to lift super heavy. Everybody's going to lift maximal weights. I would like my more skilled guys like the receivers, the DBs, those kind of guys, to be doing more full range of motion kind of things because they're going to be because of the strange positions they get in. Their body's going to be in a little bit. They're more likely to kind of get in really, really awkward positions. Yeah. Like say being tackled and things like that can put you in a really awkward position. And they need to be powerful in those positions. Guys like linemen, like O&D linemen, even though they do get in awkward positions, their positions are more standard. Right. They're going to see the same positions over and over and over. So I'm not going to ask them to go as much of a range of motion. So for instance, I'm more likely to take a receiver and say, okay, we're going to do a high bar Olympic back squat, and I want you to squat, butt to your ankles every rep, than I am a offensive lineman where I'm going to say we're going to do a box squat where you're going to go down and sit on a box where it's like right at your knee level. Mm-hmm. So that's kind of where I'm getting at there.
All right. Speed work for linemen.
Speed work, I'm against a lot of like.
Because I know it's easy for receivers and stuff to do speed work. What do you think about for that short little distance? I
think as long as they can move their feet quickly, they're good. And usually leg strength is going to let you move your feet quickly. I'm not a big proponent of like ladders or dot drills or things like that. I think they have their place. I think proprioception and being able to move is a very basic skill that they should have and can be put in a lot of ways. But as long as they're at practice and their coaches are drilling that, like, making them do the little step drills and everything, their foot speed is going to increase as long as they have adequate strength to do that.
All right. So that's it for football. Wrestling.
Wrestling's a good one. I love wrestling training because it's so all over the place because you never know what a wrestler's going to have to do. A wrestler's going to see all these insane positions and has to be strong in each and every single one of them. So a wrestler is going to have to be strong, curled up in a tiny ball, just as strong as they have to be whenever they're standing straight up battling somebody.
Right.
So a wrestler, the biggest thing that I can say with them is you try and put them in as many positions as possible and ask them to be strong. A wrestler isn't going to need as much hypertrophy work because they're usually going to try and keep a certain weight class.
Yeah.
Right. So we're going to kind of stay away from that. I think some rep challenges and stuff here and there, just kind of work that mental strength.
Rep challenge. What is that?
So one thing my guys have a really big love-hate relationship of. I've had people quit doing this, literally quit the program, never see them again, and that's fine with me. But we do a thing. Yeah, we do a thing called the squat gauntlet, and we do it, every few months. It's very, very not often. But what we do is we'll take a barbell. I'll have a kid put a barbell on his back. He'll do 10 back squats, right? And then 2 guys are standing on the sides. They'll line up a 10-pound plate, slide it on, 10 more reps.
We used to do that with bench in football.
Yeah. Yeah, imagine doing it with squats,
Ooh.
right? So they'll go all the way up, and then as soon as they can't do anymore, whenever I decide they can't do anymore, they have to come all the way back down. And I mean, I've had kids cry, I've had kids almost pass out, I've had multiple kids quit, and I get asked a lot, like, why would you keep doing it if people quit? And my mantra is, if you can't handle the training, I don't want you in my program.
Yeah, this is a weeding out.
Yeah, you're not tough enough to be here, right? And if you're not, and it's not really tough enough, I shouldn't say it, you don't have the mental capacity to push through that and take that next step. Because I don't expect you to be a great athlete if you're going to come train with me. I expect you to be able to take that next step mentally.
Yeah. All right. Soccer. Have you ever trained any soccer players?
Yeah, I've trained a multitude of soccer players.
Really?
Soccer is a fun one. I really love soccer guys because you see the biggest contrast of the strong guys versus the weak guys, right? All the soccer players I've ever trained usually have never touched a weight before in their life, right? Whenever I get them, so we'll start doing some very basic training stuff: squats, deadlift, bench. Maybe teach them a clean, something like that. These guys, whenever they go back out on the field, they're leaps and bounds in front of everybody else because all soccer players are going to be in shape.
Yeah,
their coaches are going to run them to death, which I don't think is the most efficient way, but they're going to run them to death. They're going to condition them. That's going to be there. So what it's going to come down to is skill and strength. Right. How well can you perform after the conditioning? Now, the guys I train, because people don't realize soccer has a lot of strength in it. The way we if I'm battling you, if we're both fighting for a ball, it's going to be who's stronger. It's going to be who can get the ball.
Because we're allowed to kind of shove each other up.
Assuming our skill is on the same level. Right. Yeah. I mean, if you're just a far better player because you've been playing since you were 2 years old and you're the next whatever, you're going to beat me. But if we're around the same level and I'm stronger, I'm going to be able to muscle that ball away from you better. Yeah. And then presumably I'm going to be able to accelerate faster than you because I'm stronger. So I've made separation. Now you're irrelevant to me.
Right.
So
that's
so
just making them more athletic overall instead of just an aerobic athlete.
Yeah. For high school guys especially, if you're a soccer player, get stronger. You will not regret it. Strength is never a weakness.
I love that tagline. All right, basketball, one of my favorite sports. What's your opinion on strength of a basketball player?
I think basketball's an interesting one. The biggest problem with most basketball players is a lack of proprioception, especially in the high school level. We're talking about
I'd say in high school.
Yeah, we're talking about a lot of big guys that have been tall and just bigger than everybody else their whole life, and have never really had to do a lot of things outside of basketball. Like say, most basketball players cannot air squat. Like they don't know how to squat because they've never really had to squat. So so all of those muscles don't know how to work well together. Now we see a lot of injuries in basketball by performing different movements, and it is a hard surface that happens.
That's so fun.
Like we talked about in a previous episode about creating proprioception. If your body doesn't know how to revert to a safe movement pattern, like say a squat, a good hips back, knees out squat, whenever you go to drop from, like say you go up to lay up the ball, whenever you come back down, you're just going to pop down in any random position.
Yeah, I agree with that. Right. I landed in a lot of bad positions when I played.
Right, and we know the primal movement pattern for landing is squatting. Right, it's that normal just collapsed gorilla squat. Right. Well, if you don't know that, you're not going to do that. If your body doesn't know that, you're definitely not going to do that. Right. So teaching those guys basic proprioception is huge. Just learning the primal movement patterns over and over and then adding load to them. Mm-hmm. And then, it's same with the soccer guys, getting those guys stronger where they can muscle each other a little bit. Mm-hmm. That's huge too.
I will say one of the biggest things that I took away from my time playing was work capacity.
Yeah, I agree with that.
My favorite team is Syracuse. When I was playing, there was a guy named Johnny Flint who was playing for him. They nicknamed him the Energizer Bunny because this man played, I think it was 3 or 4 overtime games. One of them was like 7 overtimes in a row. And they would see him, after the first one, he was squatting. After the second one, he was bench pressing. Like at 2 a.m. that morning, and then he was watching film. He just never got tired. So that work capacity to be able to produce all that force, because he was a little like 5-foot-something guy, and he was dunking on people.
That's a really good point. Like we talked about in our previous episode in soccer. Soccer, your coach is going to condition the crap out of you because it's you have to have the skill on the ball. But if you're out of condition, then you're done. You're irrelevant to the team. In basketball, there's so much skill involved. A lot like baseball, there's so much skill involved in how you can control the ball, how you can shoot, things like that. That they have to spend so much time on that. I think conditioning is probably just, and I've never played basketball, but it's probably just something that you do at the end of practice.
Yeah, usually it depends. But I think the work capacity with weights brings in a whole new element, like the ability to repeatedly produce force.
Yeah.
More than just running.
Well, you think about it like this, how the whole strength and conditioning world is really thinking about conditioning at this point. If your sport isn't just running, then probably just running isn't the best way to condition for that sport, right? In football, everybody's, I hope, finally coming around to the idea that running for football isn't going to get you in the best condition you can be for football.
Right.
Because it's a lot more than running. Like basketball. Basketball's a lot more than running.
It is.
There's not even really like a ton of running.
Now, I do think basketball does it right where my perception of conditioning is conditioning as a byproduct. So in basketball, we're going to train speed, right? So we're going to have different drills of going, down the court long ways or width ways. Mm-hmm. We're doing suicides, and you have a time. So the purpose of what you're doing that day is speed. That is the main thing you're looking for. But it's like when you look at the CrossFit endurance stuff and Romanov stuff. You're going to do 8 200-meter repeats. Mm-hmm. That's going to get you faster because you've got this work to rest time interval and you're trying to beat these times and all this. But you've accumulated a volume of a mile. Mm-hmm. So your conditioning is your byproduct of your speed. Yeah. And I think that's going to create a much more athletic person.
Yeah, I agree with that. And that's what we've talked about before, because it is definitely a great byproduct of that. If we look at it more of what it actually, of it being something that you're trying to work, mm-hmm. Let's say you're doing all that, but your coach knows, okay, I'm doing all this to condition them as well. Yeah. Well, now all we've done is we've stepped into that new model of conditioning for sport. And we're just saying, okay, we know the time modalities of the sport. We know I'm going to need him to do this for this amount of time, run for this amount of time, control the ball for this amount of time, run this play for this amount of time. So we're just going to do that over and over, with a little bit hindered rest period in between, and now we're conditioning.
And I guarantee you, if you can snatch 100 kilos, you can dunk on people. That's the thing. All right, so that's going to end this episode. You can follow us on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram under the Sea Lifter brand. You can like this video. Please leave a comment about what you think. Maybe you have a sport that we didn't cover. Tell us about that. Maybe we'll cover it in a future video. Subscribe to our channel to see all the future videos. And follow us on iTunes. Sea Lifter Show. And that's it.
See ya.